So yeah, pretty amazing. It's got to be one of the highlights of world literature. This scene where we imagine that Arjuna and Krishna are in the chariot between the two armies and having this very heavy philosophical conversation. It is. I consider it to be in my own reading of the world's literature as confined and narrow as it is. It's one of my highlights. And these two men, one of whom is a god, I guess, discussing the big issues. And you got it. I mean, you realize in teaching two or chapter two, Krishna tells Arjuna he should go out and fight. And it is such, for me, reading it for the first time, it was so counterintuitive. It was so surprising. I mean, what Arjuna, the kind of feelings and thoughts that he was expressing in the first chapter were so humane and so loving and so admirable that it came to me as a great shock that Krishna admonished him for those feelings and those thoughts and told him that he had to go out and do his duty and fight and kill people, which on the face of it is ridiculous, right? How could the divine, how could the God urge somebody to engage in violence? Well, the first thing I think, to say about that is that Arjuna is a soldier in time of war. So that violence in battle is, let's face it, a different sort of violence. It's not like random violence between civilians. It's battle violence, and Arjuna is a soldier. It's his duty. He says, it's his social duty. You're a soldier. You have to fight, but that's not the real answer, right? The real answer is it's not such a big deal. That's what's so astounding about the Bhagavad-Gita, is that Krishna essentially tells Arjuna it's not such a big deal. You're not really killing these people because they are not their bodies. What is, I guess, the Atman, the self that connects up to the Brahman, the ultimate being, that each of us is an immortal self that cannot be killed. The body can be killed, but you are not your body, right? And to think that way, to get caught up in worldly events, to think about whether you win or lose the battle, or whether you get killed, or whether you kill somebody else in battle, is to lose your way. That you should be thinking about other things, and you should especially not get caught up in the things having to do with the senses. Very challenging work here. I won't say that much more about it, except that Arjuna asks a very good question. In the beginning of section 3, but Krishna, if you consider knowledge of Brahman superior to any sort of action, why are you telling me to do these terrible deeds? Your statements seem to contradict each other. They confuse my mind. Tell me one definite way of reaching the highest good. That is, Arjuna realizes or thinks that he sees a contradiction between Krishna saying that you shouldn't get wrapped up in action because you lose your way, but he's telling him to go out and fight. I mean, how can you do both, right? And then the big challenge is, how does Krishna explain how you go out and act in the world, but don't become involved in it? What he calls the path of selfless action.